Tell me a story, grandmother, Bradley asked eagerly. Yes, tell us a story. Please, 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 Lily asked me even more eagerly. All right. I will tell you the story of how great-grandma Alessandra invented croquet, but she called it Magglio back in the day, I told my grandchildren. There is no way she invented croquet, which is such a wonderful game, Bradley said. I know. She didn't quite invent croquet, I said, but she did invent a game that is quite similar. Really? Tell us. My brother Lorenzo and I are considered upper-class children of the Renaissance, where we lived on the coast in Napoli. Now, with the coming of a new era, it seems there is more leisure time. We aren't working because we are too young, and I am not going to school, although my brother is. I am tutored at my house. But during the summer, my family and I visit my grandfather's house in Florence. While it is quite beautiful, there isn't much to do. There is an exceptional amount of leisure time during the summer, even more so than during the other seasons. I do enjoy visiting grandfather's house, though. On one particular summer, we had quite an adventure, or rather, we made quite the invention. Grandfather's house was a grand one filled with many treasures. When I got to the house, I immediately ran up the steps. Our servant picked up our bags and took them to our room. We were very excited, but at the same time we were not so excited to be bored again. After lunch, we decided to go exploring in grandfather's house. We opened random doors and meandered about in search of something exciting to do. We didn't find much until we reached grandfather's chambers, which were filled with many interesting things, but the most interesting of all was a wooden mallet. It was carved beautifully. My grandfather was good friends with a carpenter, so he could have anything he wanted made for him. He must have made this for something very special, because I didn't recognize its purpose. My brother found a ball and started to kick it around with his feet. He kicked it towards me with great force, and luckily for me I was holding the mallet. My natural reaction was to move the ball away from me, so I did. It landed in between the chair legs. I took another big swing and the mallet, and the ball landed under the table legs. My brother looked up excited and asked for a turn. We took turns since there was only one mallet. The game was very exciting and a little out of control. My brother took a big swing and managed to break one of grandfather's favorite vases. It made a very loud sound and awoke grandfather from his nap. We heard loud footsteps come up until we saw our very flustered grandfather. "What have you done?" he cried in anger. We were playing Magglio," my brother said with a hint of surprise. "Magglio?" my grandfather said as we both looked at him, a little confused. "Yes, Magglio," my brother said, more excited as he smiled. We have just invented a new game, grandfather. It is where you hit a ball around with mallets until someone breaks the vase. Whoever breaks the vase first wins," my brother exclaimed, somewhat sarcastically. "Oh, and where on earth did you get this idea, Lorenzo?" my grandfather asked, unamused. "I told you, grandfather. I invented it," my brother said. "All right, enough, Lorenzo," I said. "Grandfather, we were bored, so we went exploring, and I found this mallet, and he passed me the ball, and we started hitting it back and forth into different goals, like underneath the chair, the table, but it got a little out of control. We didn't mean to break the vase. He was only joking that was the object of the game. I'm quite sorry, grandfather," I said sincerely as I bowed my head politely to my grandfather. "Oh, it is all right. You are both not allowed to come up here again, however. You could have gotten hurt," my grandfather said as he shook his head at us. As we were walking back down the stairs to the main level of the house, I asked my grandfather a question. "Grandfather, why do you have a mallet, and are you going to make more?" My grandfather chuckled. "That is a secret. Do not touch the mallet, and do not tell anyone about it. It is a project I am working on. It is not meant to be used as a silly toy, though. It is a very serious tool. I am using it to make a suit of armor. It came from my workshop," my grandfather exclaimed. I decided that this was no use for such great invention, so I decided to go down to the carpenter and have him make more so we can play Magglio, and with more people. Before my brother and I went to bed, I told him about my plan to tell everyone about the game and get more mallets made and have an official wooden ball to play with. The next morning, Lorenzo and I took the horse and buggy into town to the carpenter's shop. We brought the mallet in and asked him to make 11 more mallets just like the one that Grandfather had made, and a wooden ball. The carpenter said he could do that, and they would be ready in 5 weeks. Although we could hardly wait 2 days for the mallets to be made, we said thank you and left to go back to Grandfather's house. For the next 5 weeks, we spent our time devising the rules and writing them down on a piece of parchment. So when 5 weeks were up, we took a horse and buggy back into town to pick them up. They were perfect, and we could not wait to play. As soon as we got home, we gathered our new neighborhood friends and began playing in the courtyard in front of Grandfather's house. We placed a small block on one side of the courtyard, and we had to hit the ball with the mallet, trying to get it as close to the block as we could. One day we were playing about when we thought Grandfather was busy doing work. He came and saw us play. He silently waited there where we didn't notice him until the ball came his way. He looked very stern as he said, "What on earth is this? Where did you get those mallets? What kind of game is this?" We looked down at the ground in shame. Then my mother heard this noise and came running out. "Alessandro, what are you doing playing a game like this?" But Grandfather allowed them to play, and my father and Grandfather even joined in. Soon it was a big hit in the town. People started getting mallets and made, and the game became wildly popular. It spread through neighboring towns and soon all over England. I got letters back from people in many different cities saying how great of a pastime it was. I was thrilled, and from then on, summers weren't so boring at Grandfather's house. "Wasn't that a cool story, kids?" I asked. "Yes, it was. But what is Magglio today?" Bradley asked, a little confused. See, the game got passed on through generations, and it eventually died out. But there is a similar game called croquet, which I'm sure you've heard of. However, your great-great-grandmother's game did bring a lot of joy to a lot of people and helped save many from a boring summer. Magglio became a very popular pastime, I explained. "Oh, I see. Wow, Grandmother was such a great inventor, and what a cool time period she lived in. The Renaissance doesn't sound so boring at all," Lily said.